Welcome, one and all, to the Off the Mic Wrestling Show here on YouTube. Monday Night Raw recap and reaction. This was a great show. This was a really great show, given what was advertised for this show. It felt, by WWE standards, kind of mid. Hey, we're 12 days away from a premium live event in Berlin, Germany, so you kind of a little bit like setting the stage. Also, they're facing some stiff competition with the Democratic National Convention, so you got to keep that in mind in terms of what a rating number might look like for this show. But again, I think this did what it needed to do. A lot of really solid storytelling, a lot of compelling angles that came through this. Some stuff that was like, okay, it was fine. Nothing outrightly bad on this show. But it got the job done. So we start with Randy Orton. And we're in South Florida, so he plays to the crowd. Said the next time he makes the introduction is made for him, he's going to be a 15-time world champion. I hate to break it to Randy Orton fans, he's not winning in Berlin. That's just not happening. The WWE fell into a very good position here with the botched finish. It was a botched finish. I don't know why I'm doing the parentheses, but they're playing into it and they're using it as part of the story. So that's why I'm kind of using the parentheses. But they're using that finish to kind of give a reason for Randy to have this match. It's a big time, high profile opponent for Gunther. And this was an effective show long thing where you start the show with this and then you end the show with your world title feud, which is kind of the way it should be, to be honest with you. But sometimes it doesn't go that way. Sometimes you close and begin with your hottest angle, but I like that they did this and gave Gunther and Orton the beginning and the end of this show. So before, Randy could get really far in his promo, Gunther comes out. He told the fans to shut up and listen to him. The crowd boots loudly. They chant USA. Gunther calls them lowlifes. Gunther said since everybody wants to see Orton hit another RKO on him, he wanted to let him know it would never happen again. Gunther said he's aware of how dangerous the RKO is, and Orton left him with no other option to leave him a bloody mess in Berlin. Gunther then said Randy, he would expose Randy as a very successful but underachieving one-trick pony. That was a good line. And then Orton said that Gunther is making his own flight to Germany more uncomfortable because he'll made an 8-hour trip with a size 15 extra wide boot shoved up his ass. So we set the stage. Maybe there's going to be some more fisticuffs with these guys. Ludwig Kaiser gets involved. Orton's able to clear him out initially. Orton turns his focus to Gunther, but Kaiser gets him with a chop block. Orton gets back to his feet, but Gunther put him down with a clothesline, and Gunther and Kaiser are able to stand tall over Orton. This was a good segment. I mean, after last week, Randy getting the upper hand on Gunther, you got to give some heat back to Gunther. And I think Gunther, I did not have this being a USA versus Austria Germany type thing. Did not have that happening, being a worldwide clash. But here we are. It's 2024, and yet we're going with kind of like the patriotism stuff. That's not, I think, what the goal of this thing is. It's about who's the best wrestler, and like Gunther thinks he's superior to Randy Orton. He thinks Randy's kind of a failure given the level of talent that he is. I hope they tackle more into that. I know there's only like a week to go before this. I hope they do more with kind of not going for family exploitation and like the family members and stuff, and go into the fact about Randy. Randy's could be a 15-time champion. He's not going to win, but like I said, this did the job. It was effective, but they're kind of falling into the same thing that they did with Damian Priest, and I don't think they need to do that with Randy Orton. Like, it's Randy Orton, for God's sake. Randy Orton's a future Hall of Famer. So then we get to Sheamus versus Pete Dunne. This was fucking outstanding. I don't know what it is, but what Sheamus has been able to do in the last 2 or 3 years, mind you, he was potentially on the chopping block before he came back during COVID, and like there was some real doubt after the bar that he was going to be able to have a functional wrestling career. The fact that he has been able to put on these physical, brutal style matches that are banger after banger, and he's made a catchphrase and a T-shirt out of it. But for the love of God, it is amazing that this guy, this deep into his 40s, is able to put on this high level of performance and have a match with somebody like a Pete Dunne, who granted is very young, but he has been in the business like since he was a teenager, man. Like so, um, but this was freaking outstanding. Um, like, um, I mean, so at some point, Dunn hit his own version of the 10 beats of the Bowdrin to the chest. Uh, then Pete looks to the crowd, shrugs his shoulders, which is like one of his iconic things. Sheamus does the whole show up from behind shot, which has always been a neat piece of WWE production. Sheamus then hits the 10 beats of the Bowdrin. Then he hangs Pete up in the ropes and hits another 10 beats. Um, 13,000 people here in Fort Lauderdale at the home of the Florida Panthers. So Sheamus then goes for the Brogue Kick, but Dunn catches him with a step up enziguri. Dunn then goes for a move in the ropes, and he gets hit with a nasty knee to the chest. Dunn then actually puts Sheamus's bad hand, which was the source of a lot of the work in this match. Sheamus got hit with the shillelagh last week in the build of this match, and so Sheamus is selling the hand. So Pete Dunne puts Sheamus's hand in the turnbuckle pad and starts booting it and just beating and trying to hurt Sheamus. But Sheamus gets fired up in the midst of all of this, breaks off the turnbuckle pad, and hits a Brogue Kick and wins the match. This was freaking awesome, and that finish ruled. Again, 10, 11-minute match for something on a television match. This was freaking outstanding. And for all these AEW tribalists who want to talk about these matches that are bangers, this is a banger with a story. And I love what they've been tapping into with Pete Dunne. I don't think Pete Dunne loses a ton going to NXT tomorrow and being in a number one contender match. He lost to Sheamus. Sheamus has been built up as a really solid performer for a lot of his career, 15 years in the business, and arguably in his 15-year career, even though he's won like 4 world championships, he's been a multi-time tag team champion. This might be the best that Sheamus has ever been in his career, because on a consistent basis, this guy comes out to the ring and just delivers, no pun intended, banger after banger. That's not just a catchphrase. This guy has been freaking outstanding, and this was a great showing from both these guys. So then we head backstage. Odyssey Jones is with the New Day. So then Kofi and Woods have a little side chat while they're getting ready for their match later on with the Final Testament. Woods and Kofi's asking Woods, "Hey, are you okay? You kind of look off a little bit." And so Woods said he wished that Kofi would have told him about bringing in Odyssey Jones before he got added. He felt like he's trying to use Jones to replace Big E. Kofi said he was sorry and no one could ever replace Big E. I love that they brought in the Big E element, which is really like the elephant in the room of like, hey, we haven't really addressed, the obvious, that Odyssey Jones is a big guy hanging out with the New Day. So I'm glad that they tackled that. Kofi recalled how hard it was for the New Day to get off the ground back in the day and how everyone was laughing at them in the infancy 10 years ago. Go back and watch it. People were booing the New Day. They were saying New Day sucks. Like it was not rainbows and everything like out the gate with the New Day, if you remember. Kofi said they are family and nothing will change that. He said Odyssey is in a similar spot and he thought they could take him under their wing as veterans. Woods said Kofi is right. Odyssey comes in and Woods was kind to him, but he also looked taken aback by a really aggressive hug from Odyssey Jones because Odyssey's a big and exciting dude, and he's a very excitable man. So yeah, this was good, and like it leads into like a storyline that low key on the lower to upper mid card, it's been kind of solid for television, and something that I didn't think I'd care about. Like the New Day's always been entertaining, but they haven't been this interesting in like a few years. And I think the element of what could happen with this feud, and I'll talk about it when we get to the match, what could happen and come out of this and the payoff of this could be really, really interesting because anything is on the table. So then we talk about Fanatics Fest at the Javits Center, which was heavily promoted, very successful. I saw a lot of appearances from WWE people. There was a lot of crossover with a lot of significant athletes like Peyton Manning, I think. I saw Tom Brady was there. A lot of significant people were at the event. getting replica titles. Kevin Durant got a Texas replica title. So really cool stuff. Rey Mysterio apparently was new tag team partner was Travis Scott. So that was really cool. He came out in a lucha mask. It was a really cool event in New York City and really nice. The WWE, one of their partners is Fanatics, obviously with their merch site, WWE shop. So this was really a neat little crossover for them, and I love that they pumped that up. We get a Braun Breaker vignette, featured footage of him saying that he would had the biggest start in the industry in the world. He added that it wasn't arrogant; it's just the way that it is. The video featured it featured a ton of footage of him just destroying opponents, notably, and I'm joking with this. Future AEW star Ricochet was in that, so several times, especially in his angle where he basically got written off the company. But you got the Dragunov stuff. Like Braun's put together a neat highlight reel in a short amount of time. He's a fucking superstar, man. He really is. So, so then we recap Ivy Nile attacking Maxine Dupree. So then Ivy is working out backstage, and she's approached by American Made, Chad Gable, Julius Creed, and Brutus. Chad welcomes Ivy Nile to American Made. Ivy said she gave Maxine a chance, and it's on her for not taking it. Gable said they weren't finished with the Wyatt Six. He put his fist out, and the others joined in. Gable asked how they were made, and they all said American Made. I actually, look, I'm not a fan of this name, but I like the merch that they had was cool. And this little catchphrase that they had was pretty neat. So, and then we get to what was set to be a match between Maxine Dupree and Ivy Nile. So Ivy sort of taunts and like sort of disrespects Maxine before the bell. Maxine drop kicks her from behind. Maxine followed Ivy to ringside and did a nice little, I think it was a nice little suplex on the outside before dumping her over the broadcast table. They go back in the ring. Ivy catches Maxine with a kick and then works her over with some punches. And then the lights go out and everybody goes fucking apeshit because the Wyatt Six are here. Abby the Witch, which is Nikki Cross, shows up in the ring. The rest of American Made show up and stood with Ivy. And so then this sets the stage for the rest of the Wyatt Six to show up. You've got Eric Rowan, Dexter Lumis, and Joe Gacy on the apron. Cross roughs up Nile a little bit. And then the Wyatt Six take out the Creeds. And then they surround Gable, and Uncle Howdy comes up from behind. And a thunderous roar when Uncle Howdy hits the Sister Abigail. This was great, even if it was a nothing match that led to an angle. It advances the feud and advances the element of storytelling with the Wyatt Six. And yeah, you might be saying, hey, American Made's been getting their ass kicked a lot lately. Listen, this is about kind of getting the Wyatt Six over, but I do like that Gable's starting to build this group with him alongside, and we'll see where this goes because there was a little bit of a development in the Wyatt Six. We'll talk about some of the stuff that's announced a little bit later on, but like I said, this got the job done, and the biggest and most important thing, whether you like it or not, the crowd in Fort Lauderdale was going fucking bananas for this segment. The Wyatt Six is over. Whether you like it or not, that's the thing that's got to hit with and got to pop with people. And if they're getting a crowd reaction, and you just could hear the roar of the crowd and the holy shits and everything, like this is working, and it's working on a level that I didn't know could be executed, but they have handled this with kid gloves. It's been really well executed, really well done. So then we get a video package with Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley. They talk about their issues with the Judgment Day. Rhea said that Dominic will soon, Dom Mysterio, Dirty Dom, will realize that she and Damian protected him in the Judgment Day. Rhea said Liv Morgan is becoming the thing that she hates, a discount version of Rhea Ripley. Well done. Well executed here to get the thing over. We get a CM Punk promo. All right, I got some thoughts on this. So let's run through this real fast. Because listen, I'm all for CM Punk on my television. He just looks happy and joyful to be there. This feud with Drew McIntyre's been clicking on all levels, but I have some concerns that we need to address here. So he has a leather strap around his neck, further heightening what we expected after last week with the belt attack. That it's going to be Drew at CM Punk for in a strap match at Bash in Berlin, which was later confirmed. But so Punk's going through ringside, doing his whole thing. He daps up Samantha Irvin, which I really think is cool. One of the coolest parts of the entrance. He'll walk over there, get a microphone, dap up. He daps up Pat McAfee. It's Pat McAfee's last night in WWE until probably January because of college football season. So Punk starts his promo. He's a big hockey fan. He congratulates the Florida Panthers. They're at Amerant Bank Arena in Fort Lauderdale, Sunrise, I think. Yeah, and that's the home of the Florida Panthers, who just won the Stanley Cup earlier this summer. He said Roberto Luongo, for you hockey fans, one of the great goaltenders of all time. He's in the house. They showed him in the front row. He said it was good to see him. Punk asked if bags were under his eyes or were getting bigger. He said he didn't get a lot of sleep the night before. He spoke of appearing at FanFest, or the Fanatics Fest that we talked about in New York. He said someone asked about the hot streak in WWE, about the hot streak that WWE is on. And somebody asked Punk why WWE is on that. He said fans are the answer. Fans are the answer to both questions. He points to them, obviously. Then he recalled the first person in line being a woman in a wheelchair. Said the woman stood up and told him she defeated cancer, and added that Punk was a source of strength for her. Punk noted that he had a couple friends that were also battling cancer, so that hit home for him. He said he also met a female fan who flew 15 hours from Taiwan to meet him. He said there was another fan with a sign who said he came from Jordan to meet him. Like, this is crazy, some of the connections that WWE has been able to make in terms of, like, fan interaction and, like, the type of superstar that Punk is. Punk said it means something to him and everyone in the back. Punk said it means a lot because he was gone for 10 years and people didn't forget about him. Punk said it's the fans who drive him. We get a CM Punk chant. Punk held up some fan-made bracelets that he's been getting. Obviously, the bracelet's been a cornerstone of this whole feud with Drew. So, Punk said it might be a Taylor Swift thing. He said, let's face it, I'm Taylor Swift for men. That got me. That was really funny. So then Punk turns his focus to Drew McIntyre, saying he hates him and wants nothing to do with him after beating him at SummerSlam, saying that Drew hates him and wants nothing to do with him after beating him at SummerSlam. Punk said he thinks Drew loves him, and he knows that McIntyre is still obsessed with him. Punk said Drew wants to stay connected to him and wears the bracelet with his wife's name on it. Punk asked the fans if they wanted to hear some news, because he had been teasing it early on in the promo. Punk removed the strap from around his neck, said he spoke to Adam Pearce, and made McIntyre wear a bracelet. Punk said that unless McIntyre is a chicken, they will have a strap match at Bash in Berlin. So this led to everything that you expected. I guess what they're going with is you have to touch four corners to win, which leads me to believe that this is not the last match in this feud. This is not a blow-off match. There's going to be a third match at Bad Blood in Atlanta. I'm not going to be surprised if that's the way that they go, because I think this is going to be designed to give Punk a win and protect both these guys from taking a pinfall. Like, we saw how the pin happened with the special ref, and we had a ref bump and a low blow from Drew that led to him beating Punk at SummerSlam, which didn't really do any damage to Punk. So Punk said he wants a strap match so he can whip this bitch, talking about McIntyre. Said he wants to take his bracelet back and leave McIntyre with lasting scars. Drew comes out. He accepts the strap match. Said he can't wait a full week after what happened to him last week. McIntyre asked the crowd if they wanted to tease her. McIntyre told Punk to lose the strap and they could give the fans a show. Punk said he wasn't afraid if McIntyre would give him the strap in exchange for the bracelet. McIntyre removed the bracelet and just laughed and said no. Then he said April and Larry are much safer and happier at home with me. Punk said McIntyre won't be safe in Berlin. And that's the end of the segment. Listen, my concerns. This is starting to get a little bit repetitive because these guys, what more can these guys possibly say to each other that they haven't said? This has been totally driven by the lack of physicality because Punk couldn't do anything because he was hurt. and Drew got hurt at some point. At some point, you've got to stop teasing the physicality and have these guys beat up each other rather than it being just waiting for the match. And maybe some of that is to a degree that they're trying to protect Punk as much as they can because he has been injury prone in the last couple of years, and they're trying to, maybe be as safe as they possibly can so that they can deliver on this match. By the way, happy 3-year anniversary to CM Punk and returning to wrestling, because that Rampage episode at the United Center 3 years ago, today in 2021, man, that's kind of wild to even think about. So, but yeah, they've got it. I hope they do some physical, like, pull apart angle in the go home show next week, because at this point, especially if you're going to stretch it out to Hell in a Cell, which I think they're going to do, you have to start having these guys get physical with one another. They did have the angle where, Punk whipped McIntyre, but you got to have these guys get pulled apart or something, not have these guys running after one another or just talking to each other. Otherwise, it's going to feel redundant, and if you're going to take this out to October, you've got to differentiate some things up. So hopefully Punk's a little bit looser and can potentially do some more physical approach and get involved, like in maybe like a little brouhaha, a little Donnybrook with Drew. But this was fine. It sets the stage for what's going to happen in Berlin. The card is just freaking stacked for 4 matches. All 4 of these matches look really good and have been really well built. So then we get a promo video package with Liv and Dom. Liv said they would be on top where they like it at Bash in Berlin. Dom said he couldn't wait until Bash in Berlin, challenged Damian Priest to a match. Dom said Priest could leave Rhea and he would leave the whole Judgment Day behind, even Liv, when they have their match later in the show. That gets confirmed. Then we get then we set the stage for the New Day versus the Final Testament. Roberto Luongo shown in the rafters, shown in the front row. I think that's really cool that for you hockey fans getting hyped up to see Roberto Luongo, an executive now with the Florida Panthers and a legendary goaltender in the NHL. So nice little crossover there. And then we get the match, Final Testament versus Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, and Odyssey Jones. So the match really turned when Kofi goes for a hot tag on Odyssey Jones. Jones was off the apron. He gets up to the apron. They do this camera shot where Odyssey Jones is sitting on closer to Kofi, and Kofi makes the tag to Odyssey Jones when Woods was looking for the tag, and Woods looked pissed off that he didn't get the tag. And Odyssey Jones cleaned house, had Anka pinned, but Cross breaks it up. Woods took out Cross with the Trouble in Paradise. Razor launched Kingston across the ring, and then Woods hit Razor with his limit breaker elbow drop. Aiken put Woods down with a Uranagi, but Odyssey Jones is able to get his Boss Man Slam, or the Black Hole Slam for you Abyss fans, so OG TNA fans, on Aiken, and that gets a 3 count. This was short, sweet, harmless. Advanced the feud. A lot of people were expecting Xavier Woods to turn. They're playing the long game with this, and I like that. Again, I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt here because, listen, New Day has been one of the great tag teams, but again, they haven't mattered in a really long time, really since Big E got hurt. The soul of this group is real, and this act is really, they're still over, and people still love them for what they've done, but in terms of right now, they're not the same group as they used to be. So bringing in Odyssey Jones, I think there's a lot of elements in terms of Odyssey could turn, Kofi could turn, Odyssey and Kofi could align, Woods could turn, Woods could join the Final Testament. Nothing could happen. There's so many things on the table that make this a really intriguing mid-card feud. And listen, if it's not for you, that's kind of the thing. It's like when you have a 3-hour television show, you got to fill segments. And I think it's really good that they're actually doing something in the lower to upper mid-card in these matches that aren't going to main event pay-per-views, and it's an episodic television show. So I like that they're doing this. So after the match, Woods is kind of reserved in his celebration because I think he's still pissed off about the tag. They're planting the seeds. We get another backstage segment with Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest. Rhea warns Damian that his match with Dominic is a trap. Priest said, of course it's a trap, but it's worth it to get his hands on Dom. Priest said they wouldn't stop until they passed judgment on this lame ass Judgment Day. So um, we then get another we get re-air the Afa Anawai video package. That was really cool. I love that they're hyping this up. Listen, my thoughts and prayers go out to the Anawai family. They're such like Rock, obviously in that family, a lot of lineage there. Rikishi, obviously they've had students like in terms of on off of school. Batista, I talked about last week. You've got, I mean, that's Roman's uncle. Roman lost his dad not too long ago. Seen both Wild Samoans pass away in the span of the last couple of months. Got to be heartbreaking for that family. But I love the respect that was paid to this family. They deserve it. They're a big reason why wrestling is where it is. So that was really cool. So then we set the stage for Bronson Reed versus Miz in a no DQ match. Bronson makes his entrance. We show what happened to R-Truth last week. Backstage in Gorilla, Adam Pearce is talking to Miz, warning Miz that Reed doesn't care about fines or who he hurts. Pearce said the only way he would let Miz face Reed is if he showed him he really wanted it. And Miz said he didn't know if he did. Miz says he didn't have many friends, but he stands up for the ones he has, and R-Truth was one of those. He was like a brother to him. Miz says he didn't know if he wanted the match, but he had to have it. And Miz walked out to the ring, and we have this no DQ match, which, you know what, for a short no DQ match, and Miz did his job here, man. Like, and basically it was hyped up that this Miz wanted this match, that he really wanted to send a message. So Miz early on hits Reed with a chair, but Bronson hits the chair out of Miz's hands. So that was brutal. Miz then runs Bronson into the ring post. Miz tossed chairs, the trash can, and kendo sticks in the ring. Fans are chanting for tables. Miz obliges and puts the table in the ring. Miz then hits Reed with the kendo stick, but Reed blocks it and breaks it over his knee, and then slams Miz into a trash can. Cole mentioned on commentary, said it was tough for Pearce to suspend Reed because Reed has become a massive attraction, and fans love to see the destruction that he puts on his opponents through. The tsunami is just way over with the people. Reed sat down on a chair and had his foot on Miz's head going to break. We come back. Reed crashes into a chair wedged in the corner after Miz sidestep. Miz gets a tornado DDT on a chair, but only gets a 1 on Bronson. Bronson yells, "Now you pissed me off." Miz gets a little bit more offense, but Reed catches him, and there's a table in the corner. Reed gets a Death Valley driver that looked nasty through the table on the side, rolls him over to the other side of the ring, hits a tsunami for the pin, and that's the match. Look, Bronson Reed has been fantastic in the last 3. They have built up a monster heel here, ladies and gentlemen. And this has done everything that it needed to do. Miz was great here, like, for what it was. Like, he did his job. He's a company man. He's going to go out and sell for somebody. And he took it, man. So then after the match, Reed goes up to the ropes to try and do the series of tsunamis. But Braun hits, and Braun Strowman comes out. That was a pop. Big, meaty men slapping meat. Once Strowman gets to the ring, Reed stands on the apron while nodding and smiling. And that's the end of the segment. And hell yeah, give me these two in the ring. And listen, a lot of things could come out of this because clearly the goal here is to get back to Seth Rollins. I don't know when that's going to happen or how much time Seth's going to need to sell whatever's going on here to sell the injury and sell the destruction of Bronson Reed. You could have Bronson Reed destroy Braun Strowman, which would make him look like even more of a heel. You could stretch this out a little bit with... We've seen in the past with big dudes that they can create potential magic in the ring, especially with guys who are upwards of 350 pounds, like Bronson Reed and Braun Strowman. We've seen, I remember one of my earliest memories of watching wrestling in 2003. One of the coolest things I ever saw when I was a kid, and this was when I was a teenager, was seeing Big Show and Brock Lesnar in a match on SmackDown. And Brock Lesnar superplex Big Show, and the ring blows up, and the people are going ape shit. And they did that again in like 2011 with Big Show and Mark Henry. And I think they might have also done it with Braun Strowman and Big Show not too long ago. So you could do a lot of things with these big dudes and these big meaty men slapping meat type shit. If you don't want, if you're not going to go to Seth Rollins right away, why not stretch it out a little bit and have a non-finish? I'm not saying Braun Strowman should beat Bronson Reed because that's obviously not going to happen. They're going to put over Bronson Reed here, but you don't have to do it right away. And they're going to have a match next week, I think. But listen, I love this. This was a great idea to, like, get to the next step of Bronson Reed just beating motherfuckers up. Like, now you can just, like, stretch it out and, do something with a bigger guy and, do that and to help him get over more. But this was a good segment. Backstage, Sheamus is getting interviewed by Jackie Redmond. He speaks on his issues with Pete Dunne and credited Dunne with going toe-to-toe with him. Ludwig Kaiser shows up and asks Redmond why she's wasting his time talking to the opening act when she could be speaking in the main event. So then Sheamus talks to Kaiser, said once he's done with Orton, Kaiser said once he's done with Orton, he would come right back to Sheamus so they could settle their issue once and for all. Sheamus said Kaiser knows where to find him. She said he'd be at the bar around the corner watching Ludwig take an RKO. Good segment. Then we get Dom. Dom's walking backstage. They set the stage for the big match, which is supposed to be Dom and Damian. Before we come back, Braun Breaker is interviewed by Kathy Kelly, and Braun said there was a tournament to determine his next challenger. Braun claimed that Adam Pearce didn't like him being champion, said it's not his fault that he's a genetic freak and is so good that he's just mulling through the entire roster. Braun told the poor soul that wins the tournament that it'll spear him through the floor and give him the beating of a lifetime and that it will be Braun's fault. Braun Breaker is a fucking star. And dare I say, this guy might be better than his uncle and his father. And his uncle and his father are now Hall of Famers. And a lot of people love Scott Steiner for just how wacky and crazy he was. But Braun is he really is a genetic freak. Like, we love Scott Steiner because, like, he had a big pump with all the muscles and peaks in places where we didn't know we could have them. Braun Breaker is just like, he's got the speed, he's got the power, he's got the agility. This guy is going to carry this company for the next 10 to 15 years. And you've seen his meteoric rise in NXT. He was an NXT champion almost right away. He's an Intercontinental champion almost right away. Who's to say what this guy can't do? And his promo ability, not a lot of people are talking about it because everybody talks about his athletic ability. He can cut a really good promo, and this was a really good segment with Jackie Redmond. Then we get the match between Dom Mysterio and Damian Priest. It never happens. Priest makes his entrance. He turns around, sees Carlito, JD McDonough, and Finn Balor. Priest fights him to the floor. Priest then super kicks Carlito and JD. Balor tries to run away. He runs away. Rhea then shows up in the ring behind Dominic. She blows him a kiss, gives him the nasty looking headbutt, and Priest punches Dominic. Rhea then clears off the commentary table. She teases putting Dom through the table, but Liv shows up, and Liv hits Rhea in the back with a nasty looking chair shot. Priest was getting beaten up by the other Judgment Day dudes. Carlito gave Priest a backstabber. Liv sent Rhea into the ring post in her shoulder, and that was mentioned on commentary, which I loved because that's a huge part of this story. Liv then sends Rhea into the commentary table and then back into the steel steps, throws her into the ring post again. Balor goes up top, hits the coup de grace. Liv hits Oblivion on Rhea. Dom went up top, does the frog splash. The fans are just booing loudly. At one point during this, Damian was getting held back while Liv was just wailing on Rhea. So that was a neat little visual. There was a neat little visual of Judgment Day just standing over, holding Priest by the head. Rhea's just laying prone. I was on a space, and I got to give credit to my boy Edgar, who's in our Down for the Count spaces with my boys from San Antonio. He mentioned that this was kind of a little bit of a callback to the I Quit match in 2022 at Extreme Rules between Edge and Finn Balor. And Rhea was kind of the ringleader of that whole thing. Now Liv is kind of like, we said, like the bargain version of Rhea Ripley, whatever discount version. I forgot what she called her, but this was a really good angle. I really like this. I like the misdirect that it looked like the Terror Twins were going to get the upper hand here, but they didn't. The Judgment Day finally stood tall. They needed to get some heat back in this feud. This is one of the best things that they're doing in WWE. I didn't think the Judgment Day could be this interesting when they started them 2 years ago. But man, they have really taken their time and to build to this breakup, and now getting to this breakup involving Liv Morgan. I love everything about this. This was great. Judgment Day then is backstage. Um, they all the key cornerstone people. Carlito got into that's cool thing. Liv said Dom has been all the man, been all man, and added that she will make Rhea her bitch at Bash in Berlin. Good line. Um, then we get the women's tag team championship match, triple threat. Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, the Unholy Union versus Damage Control versus Pure Fusion Collective, I think is what they're called now. It's in Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. Um, Listen, the crowd was just not into this when it didn't involve Kairi Sane and Io Sky. Like it's just like they don't care about these other teams. It's a shame because all six of these women are fantastic. I will give credit to Kairi Sane. There was a really potentially atrocious looking botch that could have ended really bad where Kairi was going to get launched to the outside. She then gets launched short, uses her momentum to spring herself off the ropes and do a dive in the opening minutes. So that was pretty cool. Kyrie and then dropped Shayna with a back fist later on in this match. She goes up top for the insane elbow. Isla Dawn with a blind tag before she can get it. And Kyrie goes for the insane elbow, but Shayna stuffed gets her boots up and blocks it. Baszler then tries to go for the Kirifuda clutch, but Fire tags in, and then Dawn hits the backstabber with the assist of the Swanton, and that's the match. That's what it is. I mean, this match went about 9 minutes. It was fine. I like that they're giving the Unholy Union some kind of a reign here with some defenses, but again, this division is just not working. And there's no heat to these matches, which sucks because, like I said, all six of these women are great, but there's no reason for us to care about any of these. They're really trying with Zoe, Shayna, and Sonya. Damage Control, they're kind of in this pseudo babyface turn. And listen, we all know that Alba and Isla are just holding those belts until they go back to Bianca and Jade. Like it's been nice that they've been actually given some kind of a reign and it wasn't immediately just handed back to Jade and Bianca, but it feels like we're just window dressing to get to this point. Like I said, it was fine. It wasn't egregious, but again, like there wasn't really a whole lot of heat to it and nobody really cared. Then we get an interview with Jey Uso, said Sami Zayn's taking some time off. Said Sami told him if he can't be champion, that doesn't mean Jey can't be. Jey said he spoke to Adam Pearce, put his name in the pool to determine who will be the next number one contender for the Intercontinental title. Hell yeah. By the way, I didn't mention this in the segment. A lot of people in that building in Fort Lauderdale during the Judgment Day segment wanted to see Jey Uso. There was a bunch of yeets. It doesn't make sense right now. It really doesn't. And they needed to put the heat back on the Judgment Day so they could get some heat. At some point, I do think Jey Uso and Sami Zayn will be involved in this because they beat the tag team champions before. So I think logically that's gonna come, but they didn't need to do anything right away. So I like that they're giving Jey an opportunity because I know a lot of people on the internet are really pissed off at the way Jey Uso has been treated. Listen, Jey's over. Just because he's not winning matches and he's not being featured as prominently on television, the guy's still over. I think he should be featured a little bit more than in backstage segments. But yeah, they're doing what they can. So then Cole said yeet is now an official word in the Scrabble dictionary. That's interesting. Then he turns his attention to Pat, and they acknowledge, hey, Pat is leaving. He's going to be back in January. He's going to College Game Day. They nice little video package showing his best moments of the last 8 months since he came back at the Royal Rumble, and he basically joined up with being the lead commentator with Cole on Raw. Really nice thing. Listen, Pat McAfee is an acquired taste. Sometimes I can only go so far with this shtick, but you can tell he loves being there. He has this really big enthusiasm about the company. The people love him there. The people in the company love him there. The fans love him. no matter your opinions about him, Pat is good for WWE. But listen, if he's into something else, I respect him for stepping away and clearing the way for Corey Graves or Wade Barrett to go to Raw, and whoever the other guy is to be paired up with Joe Tessitore um, on Raw, and then Michael Cole's going to go to SmackDown with the other person. So, um, listen, like I said, I think it'll be great for WWE to see what they can do with this Joe Tessitore experiment. But like I said, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Pat, but it's like you say, yeah, it's a big loss, but I do think that WWE will be just fine on commentary. They've got people there. Wade Barrett's great. Corey Graves is great. I do think that they've unlocked something because of Pat McAfee with Michael Cole. And Michael Cole has been as good as he's ever been in his 25-year career. So there's more to be said for that. So then we hype up. They're in Providence next week in the Go Home show for Bash in Berlin. We get Braun Strowman and Bronson Reed. Intercontinental title number one contender tournament starts, and Uncle Howdy will take on Chad Gable. So that's great. This is going to be an interesting show next week. I'm really hyped up for it. Like I said, this Bash in Berlin card, you've got the 2 world title matches, Cody and KO, Randy versus Gunther, CM Punk and Drew in the strap match, and then obviously Terror Twins versus Liv and Dom in the mixed tag. So we're probably going to get a 5th match. Doubt we're going to get a 6th because usually these PLEs are 5 matches, and then people will just complain that there's only 5 matches on the show. Who cares? They're 5 match. You could put those 4 matches up against the top 4 of All In, and I would tell you that I would be more hyped up for Bash in Berlin with the way that they've built up all these feuds, even in a short amount of time. And I'll talk about this Randy Kaiser match that leads into Randy and Gunther. They've done a better job in 2 weeks with Randy and Gunther than they have at building their own world title feud with Swerve Strickland and Bryan Danielson. They're doing some great stuff here at the end, but it's like, what the fuck is the build there? Then we get the main event, Randy Orton versus Ludwig Kaiser. It's Randy Orton's first match on Raw since 2 days after Survivor Series, because remember, he's been a SmackDown guy since he came back. So Orton gets the better of Kaiser early on before Gunther shows up in the timekeeper's area to distract him. Kaiser dumps Orton over on the broadcast table with the signature Randy Orton drop. Kaiser then drop kicks Orton's knee, which we mentioned early on in the show. Kaiser does his run around the ring spot and drop kicks Orton's knee into the ring steps. Later on in the match, Ludwig clotheslined Orton over the top rope and picked up a 2 count. Cole said it was a breakout performance. This was a pretty good effort from Kaiser. So Orton then cuts off Kaiser on the ropes, headbutts him before executing a superplex on the second rope. Orton gets his draping DDT, goes to the Viper pose, goes for the RKO, but Kaiser's able to roll him up for a 2. Orton then pops up and hits the RKO, and that's the match. This was good. This is what it needed to be. After the match, Gunther gets in the ring. We get a quick little Donnybrook. It's not even really a pull apart because they really had a minute to sell it. And we go off the air with these 2 fighting with each other. So like I said, there's a ton of heat with this match. And they've done a really good job in 2 weeks of making us care about, it's Randy Orton versus Gunther. These are 2 of the best in the world. And one of the greatest of all time in Randy Orton. A surefire first ballot Hall of Famer against Gunther, who's one of the best professional wrestlers working today, in his first title defense in Berlin, Germany. That's not hard to sell, but they've made this personal. They've made this deep. I hope they get a little bit more physical going into, like I said, you got 1 more week to put on it. But like I said, this was a really effective episode of Raw. There was a chance for it to go really, really wrong, but the build here to Bash in Berlin has been really, really good. Okay. I've already gone about 40 minutes here on this Raw show, but there's something on the internet that caught my attention today. And I feel like this is going to be a discussion that is going to be had for the next, 8 or 9 months before we go to WrestleMania in Vegas next year. So the consensus is that it is going to be Rock and Roman Reigns in the main event of WrestleMania Night 2. The match that everybody thought we were going to get this year is going to happen in Las Vegas. So the question is, what's it going to be for? because a lot of people are starting to think that Rock is going to beat Cody Rhodes and Rock is going to be the champion going into this match. And I'm here to tell you, if you're trying to make up and concoct this idea in your head that Cody Rhodes is losing that championship, you are full of shit. Because what does that accomplish with a 50-plus-year-old Rock who's yes, he's a board member, but what does Rock beating Cody Rhodes and going into WrestleMania as the champion do for anybody? It doesn't do anything for anybody. Roman Reigns doesn't need to be put over. He doesn't need the championship. This match is going to be for the Ulafala and for who is the tribal chief, who is the real tribal chief. That is what this is going to be about. And I've seen people on the internet say, oh, they're not going to have a main event of WrestleMania of night 2 not be for a championship. Well, fuck. WrestleMania 11, I think it was, with Lawrence Taylor. You had a football player main event of WrestleMania. You had Roman Reigns against The Undertaker main event of WrestleMania. It's The Undertaker. You had Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker main event of WrestleMania. You've had numerous amounts of times, not so much in the 2-night format. I mean, you had a night 1 main event where Stone Cold faced Kevin Owens in an impromptu, match. But listen, like night 2, I understand that some people are getting caught up in, oh, it's got to be for the championship. It's got to be for the champ. No, it doesn't. And you're going to cut the legs out from underneath your top babyface to just give Rock the championship so he could give it to Roman again when Roman's Roman doesn't need to be there all the time. Why would you do that? I think people are really overthinking this. It's going to be for the Ulafala. You heard the reaction when Roman put it on for 5 seconds. Everybody went crazy. I would make the argument that the Ulafala is maybe the second most prized thing in all of professional wrestling right now, behind the Undisputed Championship. The World Heavyweight Championship, we'll see where it is, but it's a relatively new championship. And don't even get me started on any of the 7,000 AEW championships that are in existence right now. The Ulafala, with the way that they've made that feel important, feels almost as important as a world championship. And anybody who doesn't see that, you are just a fucking idiot. Because I don't understand why it needs to be for the championship when there has been precedent that a world championship does not have to main event a show. And I'm not saying that's an indictment on Cody Rhodes. He can main event night 1. Rock and Roman transcends professional wrestling. And even without the Ulafala, that would still be a match. Don't make the same mistake that you made with Rock and John Cena twice in a lifetime and put a title on it, because then you're basically just bastardizing and just cutting the legs from out from underneath your top babyface and Cody Rhodes, which I think Triple H is smart enough to realize. But this could be politics, and maybe Rock wants that. But I hope that all you people on the internet are not actually telling the truth. I think it's stupid. I think it would be a horrible idea to give Rock the championship, because what does it accomplish? So anyway, that's my heated take here on that. We'll probably be talking about that a lot in the next 6 to 9 months as we get towards WrestleMania. But that was in my head a little bit. But yeah, big week. All ins this weekend. AEW's in Cardiff this week, so that'll be interesting. We'll have SmackDown. We'll see the fallout from Roman getting effectively taken out. And yeah, really exciting times in the world of pro wrestling. I'll talk to you guys real soon. Bye-bye.